Hey guys, second a Broadmatch show. We've been doing these once a month. We did one last month, but we got delayed with this one. Do you want to enlighten why that is? And there's a very good reason. So let's take it back to Bali.
Yeah, so I think we actually recorded the last Broadmatch show when I was in Australia. So I spent 3 months in Australia, which was an amazing adventure. And then I was slated to spend 3 to 4 months in Asia, my first stop of which was Bali. And ironically enough, my first night in Bali, I actually, at 41 years old, had a stroke. So I spent 8 days in the hospital, 7 days recovering. Obviously, kind of threw everything for a loop, and I've since traveled back. I'm in Arizona. That's what the palm trees are behind me, kind of recovering at my parents' house. So yeah, I had a stroke, man. So that's why I haven't been doing much work the last 6 weeks.
Wow. So do you want to go into, because there's different reactions for different people in terms of the stroke. Some is your verbal fluency goes, etc., etc. Yours was slightly different, wasn't it?
Yeah. So basically what a stroke is, it's one of two things causes a stroke. One is you get a blood clot, which obstructs the blood flow. And then when parts of your brain don't get blood flow, they die effectively, right? So the cells, whatever gets cut off dies. The other one is a hemorrhage where basically a blood vessel blows up. So a lot of strokes, the ones that are scarier, tend to happen on one of the either left or right hemispheres of the brain. So either you get a clot or a hemorrhage in the brain, and whatever it impacts in that area goes. So you see a lot of people can't use their arms on the one side. They can't talk. Some people lose kind of mental function. Mine was actually at the spine, like they call it a midbrain. So it's basically at the base of the spine where it connects to the brain. So my biggest issue, I couldn't walk for a couple days after effectively, but mine is balance. So it impacts the balance center. So a little bit of the left side of my kind of above my neck is impacted, and then a little bit on the right below my neck. So mine kind of swaps hemispheres. But yeah, man, it's been, I consider myself very lucky, although it's a little bit odd to not be able to walk for a period of time and have this happen. Not something that you expect, but could be a lot worse. Again, a lot of people need to relearn how to talk, relearn how to use their body. I basically just feel like I'm 4 or 5 beers deep most of the time. That's kind of my balance center has been impacted, but.
Yeah. And where are you in your recovery?
Yeah. So, so it happened February 1st. Spent 2 weeks in Bali before coming out here. We're recording this. It's the 26th. So we're coming up on the 2 month market. The good news is obviously a big question mark, because I was relatively healthy otherwise, was why did it happen? So when I was in Australia a couple weeks before, I went to Tasmania to mountain bike and kind of tweak my neck. And so before I went to Asia, because again, I was going to be in Asia for 3-4 months, I'm like, you know what, I better get this neck situated while I'm in a Western country. So I went to a chiropractor the day before. So the neurologists here in the US, both are pretty, there's something called high velocity adjustments, and they can actually cause strokes, especially in younger people. So it looks like the neck adjustment is what did it the day before I went to Bali. The good news is that it's about a 3 to 6 month recovery. The brain's a little bit tricky to figure out because it's got there's 4 blood vessels that go into the brain. My rear left one is basically completely blocked. So there's new veins that have kind of spun off. They've got to create new connections. That takes about 3 to 6 months for kind of the neuroplasticity to take place. And the doctors here suspect that I'll get back to like 95 to 98%. So, the first couple of days I couldn't even walk, 8 feet to the bathroom, walking around, started driving again. So I'm kind of slowly getting back to normal, but it's a process, man. It's going to take, 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, no, it was interesting because I remember, I think it happened to you on the Friday. You messaged me from hospital on the Sunday. And I was thinking, he's 41 years old. He's lean, he's fit, he's strong, he's active. I'm like, I'm 48. What's going to happen? Do you know what I mean? It's like, your point is like, you do have to start really, truly valuing your health. And in and around that time, my brain fog and gut issues come back with a vengeance. And I thought I'd cleared that because once I started the training in 2020 in the October, over them 3 months, all my brain fog, gut issues seemed to evaporate. And I thought, brilliant. All I've got to do is keep training, and then my gut just exploded. And as of today and the last couple of days, this has been my longest day back to work because I've been literally working an hour here, 2 hours there, then resting and stuff like that. But I've been speaking to a few other people. Now, we've got a crew of us in this industry that all have gut issues, and they've mentioned it on the show. You've got Phil, who's part of the Titan lot. You've got Matt Phipps, Kata's partner. I think Ash Thompson, he was done over 100 million. He's a big UK seller. George Maressa, a lot of people have had some sort of autoimmune disease of some kind, and it does take a lot of time to heal it. Now, because of that 5-year period, 2015 to 2020, pretty much put me out to a game. I know I did the podcast and everything, but I was only working a handful of hours a day on most occasions. It would clear up and you get a 2-month run and then you're back there again. So it does tend to rob your life, and you go around the system. I think I spent in total up till now about 38 grand. Some people, Phil, I know, spent over 100 grand. Ash done the same. And you want to get to the bottom of it and you go for all these different long protracted protocols and they don't work. But then I discovered something last week. So I've been looking at gut biome stuff for obvious reasons since 2015. Now, I'm not a scientist or anything, but once I understood the biochemistry, what the engineer was trying to do to create with it. Now, there's different ways to heal in the gut. You could do food elimination. So I did a test the other day on the hair test, and then he gave me a list of all the foods, right, that I can't eat. Eggs, everything, good food, but my body reacts to it. So then you have to take all of those out and then you only eat on the green list. So change up all the foods, that's all good. I went on to athletic greens. I got blood work, got bionic to make up supplements and done that. But it's a very, very slow process. Now, if you want to deal with gut biome, we've discussed it. You can use binders. Again, slow paced. You don't want to have a Herxheimer effect. You don't want to end up being constipated, etc. So you have these binders that can pull. You can try and use low rent probiotics, microbials, whether that's pharmaceutical or whether that's like natural. We can go to a naturopath and do that, but it all protracted long periods of time. Now, when I looked at this, it's called Elixir, beginning with an E, UK company, ships it worldwide. And when I was reading through it, it works out as to be like a 5-stage process. Now, most probiotics are useless. It's just a yogurt, right? And then the strands in there are dairy-based, which are useless, about as useful as a chocolate ashtray to a human. And so what you end up doing is you would take this every day and you think, well, 10 billion CFU, right? And so you think, okay, that's a lot of opportunity to help repair the gut. It's not. You've got over 1 trillion in terms of your gut bacteria. Weighs, I think it's either a pound or a kilo of bacteria in your gut. So you may as well take eyedropper and then drop it in or drop into the ocean. That's as much useful as normal probiotics are.
Yeah.
But what this actually does, this is actually gives you per serving is 500 billion CFU. So what this ends up doing in the first few days that you take it, because you'll know within 3 days whether something is happening, right? Whether it settles your gut or it takes care of your skin, if you've got skin issues and rashes and things like that. It works on a 3-stage process, but what it does, it's flooding your gut with good bacteria. And because there's so much of it, it then overpowers the bad bacteria, but it lets off a natural pathogen, which makes it less likely for you to have a Herxheimer effect. If anyone's had a Herxheimer effect, it's like getting the flu and you feel really bad and everything. It's because there's too much disruption to the gut biome. And I'm on day 4 now. So it's either a placebo effect or I've sat down and drummed out 39 pages on a document for no reason.
Wow.
So I don't know where it's going to go. And the best thing is, because normally this, you pay out the arse for this kind of things. I'm scrolling. I'm thinking this all sounds too good to be true. I love the biochemistry. I've not seen this before. You read all the reviews. People, it really is good impact. And I went, you go to the add to cart button, £24.
Yeah, there's a lot of this. We talked about this before. I'm about to do a 14-day cleanse starting next week, and I think I've got almost $800 US worth of supplements. So it's one of those. I think when you talk about spirituality, depression, anxiety, health, all these things, it's one of those industries that I think a lot like our industry where it's making money. Right? You get the folks that will take advantage of that, and maybe it's even good products half the time, but the margins on some of that stuff is ridiculous. So with that protocol, Danny, is it do it for this cycle and then you're good to go, or is there an ongoing maintenance protocol? What's the
Well, what you can actually do with it is like the guy, the founder, basically said, look, you don't need to take this every day, because once you got through the dysbiosis and your gut is balanced, it becomes a waste, and I don't want to waste your time or your money. So what will happen? Let's say you've got it chronically. I would say having it from 2015 and not really solving it would cause it to be more on the chronic end. So what you do is you do it 6 days, and you get 6 sachets. In the sachets, you've got 10 capsules. You just take them on an empty stomach in the morning. So you do the first 6 days, and he advises you, well, maybe buy another one. So it cost me £48 because I bought 2 courses. I'm 4 days in. It should be 6 days. You'll know within 3 days whether you've had any impact. Doesn't mean you'll be perfect or anything else, but you would distinctly know whether that's a lift in mood, whether your gut stops hurting, whether brain fog disappears. You will see something happen. And so what you can do is, if it's chronic, which I'll probably do, I'll do these 12 days. And then I'll just buy another. So if it cost me £100 to sort out my health, it cost me £100 a month for my AG1 greens. It cost me £100 a month for the bionic, and they'll be ongoing, So what they suggest to do is, let's say, in 6 months' time, you're a lot more stressed, right? Because stress also creates dysbiosis. Or you've eaten junk food, or like us, we go to conferences, go on the road, and you're eating crap, and you're drinking. Is do a course there, do 6 days, just to top it up, right? And then you maybe do it once a year, just to keep it in check. Because eventually, once you've flooded the body with enough of quality gut bacteria, and it's overpowered the negative bacteria, I can't think of the word I want to use, then there's not much else to do. And, so for ladies as well, and guys, of course, but let's say you've got skin issues. A lot of this comes from the gut. Do you see what I mean? You might find that you're on antidepressants because your serotonin level, because all of your autoimmune, or 70% of your autoimmune, comes from the gut. So you might actually have gut dysbiosis. So, and anyone can take it. So I've been letting everyone know. I've been on the phone, mentioned it to Fee, our mutual friend, etc. And anyone who will listen, just give it a go. I'll buy some for Cheryl as well, because she'll have some health problems. Just try it out. It's not going to do any harm. So it's not magic, but the science and the biochemistry behind it is sound. And if it works, you're great.
Yeah, let's report back on both of our journeys, because I think one of the things that this stroke, and I think, you've had this as well, where you can only work 1-2 hours a day and then you're just zapped. I used to have gratitude about the lifestyle I was able to live, more grandiose things, but it's, I took for granted walking, like waking up feeling normal, being able to work when I wanted to do, as long as I wanted to work. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs I see, they grind so hard that they lose perspective on some of those really little, simple, meaningful things, and your health is the number one. So I think, let's continue to report back, Danny. We're both kind of on an interesting journey, and I'm super interested on the gut biome stuff, because it seems like there's a lot that we don't know about that, and it could be, the one thing where, there's these, things where if you fix one thing, it has these cascading impacts, and I think the gut biome is one of them. So yeah, man, stoked to see how it goes. Yeah.
Okay, so right, let's move on to another show. I thought it'd be interesting to. I'm not sure people always realise what I do behind the scene. Maybe I'm just a podcaster. Who knows? And but to talk about Debacle and some of the things outside the ranking stuff I do there, because I've got a team that do all the PPC. But one of the things I do is problem solve as best as I can for clients. So we joke, we call it the therapy couch. I've had clients in some cases in tears and stuff, and I get their head back in the game, and then we fix problems. And I thought I'd share some interesting stories, which I can, because it doesn't determine who the clients are. You won't know who they are, and it doesn't break confidentiality. But let me tell you some crazy stories. And bearing in mind, Amazon's tough enough, right? There was an incident with one of my clients last year. So give you a bit of backstory. They owned a warehouse and a bit of space, right? So they thought, I know what to do. I'm going to rent out next door, helps with the cost, etc. Standard thing, right? And thought what they didn't realise is that the people that moved in were a local crime family. They're a bit handy down in that area, right? He wasn't aware of that at the time. And so auto repairs, I think it is, of some kind. And so they're taking up a lot more space, crossing a few boundaries and stuff like that. Now, he was not having trouble, but it's kind of disruptive. But then you can't really speak to them and communicate with them because what are you going to do? They're local riffraff, right? And so there came a point where he thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to work from home. I don't really feel comfortable here. I can get my most work done. So that's what he did. One day, someone's played with the locks and there's false entry from memory. Goes in there, big factory going on, like weed farm. So basically, someone had got in there and they'd manufactured a load of weed. So they've got 20, 30 K's worth of equipment there, like guessing. Then he thought, I know what to do. I'm going to phone the police. So he reported it to the police. The police come in, took information, and then they couldn't really do anything because it's not illegal to own that equipment, even if it's not yours, right? Because he wants to be transparent. So whoever's broken in there, they can't do anything. They've got no witnesses. They've got all this equipment in there, but there's no weed, right? So there's no crime committed, right? So obviously you think maybe next door's tied in with something. They know what's going on. They're keeping eyes and stuff like that. Obviously they denied it and stuff. So locked it all down, changed the locks, everything else. Oh, and also what they've done, they've gone into the mains. So they've gone and used the electrics from the mains of some kind. I'm not sure you do it, but they've hacked it. And basically, instead of using his electric and the level of electricity that they needed to run that plant, they obviously broke the laws and done that. So that's why he wants to report it as well. 3 days later, he goes back down there. Someone's broken in, trashed the place, all the equipment's disappeared. So he's got a weed farm that the police can't do anything about. He's reported it and the police are not going to do anything about it because they can't, because they've got no proof of anything other than it's not illegal to own that equipment and the equipment's not his. And they've done all the statements and everything else. And then they've come back, broke in, took all their equipment out because, hey, it's not enough to do the weed in there. They've got a load of equipment. They want their equipment back. So they've broken in and they've taken that. So then he's had to clear up that and he's like, oh, what am I going to do? Then he's got to think about, well, what are we going to do here? Because I can't even sell it because no one wants to move in if they know the local crime family's next door. Or you sell it and have your pants pulled down and sell it to them. So he's in a bit of a predicament. So I spoke to the security team.
And he bought this. Where else he's not leasing it? He bought it.
Oh, I don't know if it's lease or bought. I can't remember.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
he must.
okay,
no,
okay,
actually, he did buy it because he's going to sell it, and they'll get to that point.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So I spoke to my security team that I have at all the events, the guys, Special Armed Forces. You met them, nice guys. And I said, listen, random, police ain't going to do nothing. What'd you do it? He said, what about dog handlers? And it doesn't matter how gangster you are, you're not going to be going up against some dogs, right? So that's what people do. And I thought it's a good idea. It's not illegal. You're not threatening, you're just protecting your property. Do you understand the psychology behind it? It's like, it's not a threat to people and sending a signal or anything like that and put your family in danger. He went down there, they had a chat, we had a look around. But when you think of the cost, 24 hours on site, it starts to rack up a lot of money, you know. And then what you decide to do is that we're going to sell it and take the hit if necessary. And so he spoke to people and he's putting it on the market. And that's on top of having margin compression. Imagine having to deal with that. So that's one of the stories I wanted to share. The other one, check this out for an interesting one. So a client of mine had their product as standard copied, and there's a copyright infringement and everything else. So I reached out to them and it could have got a bit weird. There's lots of connections and dots of joining. I said, look, let me go in and have a chat. So their ego's not threatened, explain the situation, you know, get a deal done. Let's see what we can do before you go nuclear and do 30 grand with legal and stuff like that. Then it kind of got to the stage where it's like, how do we negotiate for this? Do they sell through the stock? No harm's done. Do you know what I mean? So it's passive. The guy was having mental health issues. You've got to take that into consideration and stuff like that. But what transpired, this person didn't copy. What happened? He ran a competition on 99 designs. The designer stole it. So basically, the guy was doing everything right. My client has had their product ripped off, only to find out it was a rogue designer of 99 designs. So this poor sod's holding the baby. It's not my client's fault, and it's not his fault. So that's all being...
So just to get this straight, he had them design packaging or something or an image, and then they filed their own copyright and then used that registered copyright against your client?
No, what happened was they were generally doing a product, right? But they needed to get designers for the product and come up with some ideas. The product is something where you can implement slightly different ideas on, but it's where you take them ideas from and how close it is in terms of a clear rip-off product. Now, there was no intent. This is like, oh, I like this one. This is a good idea. Why don't we do it? Do you understand what I'm saying? So I can't tell you what the product is, or as you go, oh, I understand why you mean that now. But let's just say in the design element, there was a bit of carte blanche there in that they can do it. And they go, oh, that looks really good and everything else. But the designer obviously went onto Amazon, ripped it off, and then handed that to for the 99 designs. Then that person unknowingly paid for that, accepted it for what it is, thinking it's a unique design. And then they get a Facebook message from me because they're connected to me long way in the distance, and we've spoken years ago. And I said, listen, let's have a chat. What can we do here? It's a delicate situation. My client, people know each other. You don't want it all blowing up publicly. Do this behind closed doors and do it in the right way. So back and forth doing the solutions, but we didn't realize at that point until their legal team pointed out and showed us all the proof. So this poor sod copied the client without knowing and paid for the privilege of that design and, all the launching and all the other things. So what they said was, we should have paid the VAT to HMRC, not you, i.e. the seller. And they said, well, look, it's done now. I've got proof and everything of that, and then showed receipts, etc. So I said, well, why don't you say to them, okay, you as Amazon pay out the 40 grand again out of that money, and then you go back and claim it back from HRT later, because it's 420 grand there. So basically they can give you the other for 380. But then they didn't respond to messages. I'm ad-libbing here because there's going to be more behind the story, but I'm giving you the moral of the story. So basically they end up using 3 suspension companies. None of them managed to turn anything up. Within the suspension companies, one is a legal company as well. So there was a discussion of going to arbitration, which should have been long and protracted. But it's very difficult for this person to carry on their business, all the stock, pay their staff, pay their third-party service providers, etc., etc. And I didn't do this. I didn't have any hand in this part. But they end up finding a politician. And the politician got them paid, I think, half the money. They're still battling now. Imagine that. Getting a politician involved. So you've used 3 suspension companies, look at going the legal route and everything else. Because you get to the point where it's like Amazon stopped responding to them, like answering questions. It's very simple. Why don't you then, I've already paid to HMRC. Okay, then why don't you take 40K, you pay HMRC, I'll then do the legwork to get the 40K back, but then you give me the change, right? Simple, but then was being ignored. But I don't know the full detail, but I just thought it was very good, and I haven't heard it's quite a novel way of doing it. Maybe people have done it in the past, but
yeah. Honestly, I've got a good buddy of mine that's in the space too, who was, when he was selling his company, he had a copyright infringement issue, like a nefarious one, where somebody was saying that his image was copyrighted. And he ended up going to, I believe it was a state senator in the U.S., and then within a day or two it was fixed. So I think that's, when your back's against the wall, you got to try everything you can. And I think the political route does work in certain circumstances.
Yeah.
So it's not the first time I've heard of that, actually.
Yeah, I get it. If you're based in Washington and stuff, maybe pull a few strings, you know someone that knows someone. We're talking about the UK. Do you know what I mean? Like a seller just mind its own business. It's interesting, but I'm pleased it resolved that. Look, this could kill people's businesses. Then at Christmas, I had another situation. A client was owed €1 million. Right, they're an 8-figure seller. €1 million, and tried everything. I made a load of phone calls, managed to come across, the right information, notarizing documents and stuff, just a few stamps. Got a bit delayed. Then he gets an email on New Year's Eve. So he gets to go into the new year and to get paid. But the pressure that puts clients under is incredible. And so one of my jobs...
Scary, yeah.
Yeah, one of my jobs I spend a lot of time with is helping my clients get back in the zone, like help them stabilize their, they're emotionally dysregulated, of course, you're stressed, you're angry and everything else. But trying to help them get back to thinking straight. And I always say to them, look, I can't promise anything, but I got you and I'm going to do my best to fix it. And then I try and give them a timeline. And, 9 times out of 10, touch wood, been lucky. We've managed to solve those problems. So when you come to Debacle, we look after your PPC and we look after your mental health. All part of the service.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this on our last one. A little one for you. A lot of people use various different feedback platforms. I'm not sure if you've used IntelliV before. There is a really interesting one for you because normally, look, let's say I don't use PickFu, so I can't question the other options on them. They may even cover those. But, with a lot of sellers, they will go, what one do you prefer, this image or this image? So all you're doing is picking the best of either image, but it doesn't mean that's going to align with the images and the image set of other sellers. Are they of the highest level, So what I encourage sellers to do, because what we can do, whether you're a service provider or seller, we call it Amazon gazing. So you go on to Amazon, you look at all your competitors, you go, they're shit, my product's better. All your biases are sitting there, you're missing everything. That's shit, mine's better. Mine should be selling that, that's shit, I can do better. Do you understand? But you're not getting any real true level of feedback. Now, okay, these may not be Amazon customers and they're third-party people. But one thing that can really save people a lot of money is to work out what the customer objections are. So let's say that your listing's not converting and you go, well, just change your keywords or add these keywords to do it, use gift, like you go everything other than get that information that's possible. So on IntelliV, there's there's 2 things that you can do on there, which really gives you good feedback. It's your customer objections, because then what that does, it gives you a massive list. Now, I will warn you, some of it can be fucking brutal. So what you might do is because you're in love with your products, is you get this feedback and then you sulk for one day. Then you get emotionally regulated. You wake up the next day and then you're excited because you've got this hit list now of all the customer objections. Now, there's no guarantee that it will work. But here's a really interesting thing that we did, and couple of things to take away from this. Then we've done one where you'll compare your image set to set B and C. Now, you won't necessarily take the best seller because some products, look at the best beard oil. It's a shit product, not shit images. It's got one image, right? Kills it. So you wouldn't necessarily use that. You used to look for the best image set. Now, everyone goes on about branding. And yes, it should look nice, typeface, blah, blah, blah. But what I've found and common with a lot of other clients as well. So your image set looks beautiful, right? Each of you got every type of image there. You think, you're getting your brand across and everything else. And when you read a lot of the feedback from these people, what they're really looking for almost is instructions. Like, let's say if you've got a multi-part kit and stuff like that, And people get really confused. And a lot of the comments you get, I'm not saying it's for everyone, you might actually find is you've got beautiful images, but you're not saying what you need to say because you don't know what to say and what people are seeing. And people see some strange shit, right? So we had this issue where this client had a product. They were the first to market, usual thing, 20, 30 incumbents come in, still all the market share. And then one of them takes over you and literally kills you on the sales, right? And so what we found was their product was a green version and the product that just kills it is pink. And what you're doing is you're looking at it, because this is, say, a hero product, right? You've got 2,000, 3,000 reviews. So all you're hell-bent on is how to fix that product, right? Because you want that product to recover because it's got the history and everything. Now, what transpired, people liked the product. They just so happened to prefer a pink one, not the green one. And that was the difference. And do you know what we did? Reset up the parent and child configuration and targeted with the pink, and the sales doubled. It didn't matter.
Of course.
It didn't matter because we had the variation, the pink variation. But what we were chasing was the wrong thing. And that was what, $320. Money well spent, And it's simple things like that. But a lot of people don't want to do it because why? It's fucking boring. Split testing, boring.
Yeah.
No one, it's not sexy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So definitely do that before launch. It doesn't have to be that software. It can be anywhere. I've got no association. I don't get paid for it. Yes, they're sponsors at Seller Sessions, but at the end of the day, it's a good product, and PickFu might do that as well. So give them a plug. But I think sometimes we're testing the wrong things. So you want to work out your customer objections, because why you work those out, you get a higher conversion rate. Somewhere along the line, you'll reduce your PPC costs because you've got better campaign history, better click-through rate if it's down to images, etc., or an adjustment in your title. But it's $320 and you'll have answers in 24 hours. Yes, you've got to spend money, whether you go third party, someone optimizing your listing and they'll rewrite the copy based on the feedback, or you've got to pay a designer. But it gets you closer to the beat. It gets you better answers rather than go harder on PPC and get the same results, but at a higher cost,
Yeah, love it. Well, you mentioned, I guess to wrap up, man, you mentioned sponsoring your event, but Seller Sessions, first of all, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it. So it's looking like I'm going to be able to make it. So I'm super stoked. But, we're coming up on whatever it is, 5-6 weeks out.
Yeah.
Anything to share on the event leading into it? I know it's kind of showtime for you, and kind of as the weeks creep along, it gets closer. But I'm excited and super pumped for it.
Yeah, well, the CPTSD is under control this year. So far, I've just found out that
which is the strikes. Oh, the
strikes. Right? This is a good one.
Like train strikes?
Yeah, they have train strikes, but it's the week before. So they've already designated, because you don't know, because they launch a little bit out. So they've got strikes in April, and then there's train strikes on May 4th, and we go May 11th.
Okay,
so
perfect.
we're clear of the strikes.
Perfect.
As they've settled on those dates now. So that's perfect for us. Last year was very stressful. I remember telling you when we found out, but they're delayed on providing the information. And so once we spotted it, which was about 3 weeks out, we took every postcode of a ticket holder and then mapped it out across the UK and given alternative routes.
Nuts.
And then I set up a carpool of 6 cars. The carpool didn't actually get used, but that's the beauty with sellers. They knew it was going to say, do you need the van? I can do Manchester. And then I had someone doing Birmingham, and then we had someone, where is it, down Bournemouth way, so they could cover Paul and stuff. Luckily, we didn't actually need it. People did struggle to get there, and some took coaches and stuff, but we won't have that as an issue this time round. So I'm pleased about that. As it stands, as of this podcast, 18 tickets left. I still got some of the Steve's workshop and Brandon's, but I'm sure that they'll sell out. So now it really is about dialing in. Where are we now? About the 26th of the month, aren't we? So maybe next week after, tickets sell out. I'm happy with that. Then I can focus on delivering on production and everything else. Obviously, you get a few refunds, and then you mark back the tickets and make them available. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Last year was horrible. I didn't enjoy it. And normally I say to myself, I'm never doing it again. But look, my costs have risen. New venue, ticket price, same as 2019, changed We don't have sponsors. We have exhibitors now. I'm changing the model because I want the model to survive over the long term. You're not getting the aggregator money as lead sponsorship, which helps subsidize your costs. So remodeled the workshops, the VIP dinner, and then that way we look at Seller Sessions survival for the next few years. So we're not reliant on other things, and that you building in the model. Everyone on stage that are speaking, I'm hosting, but I'm not speaking. Everyone on stage are 7-8 figure sellers. So made in it like a clear defined line there. So you got exhibitors, because I'll be honest with you, we're at stage in the industry where it's standard for nearly everyone who wants to sponsor wants to speak. So I've had to draw a line under that because, some people say, Dan, I'm not like all the other service providers, and they're not, but I know sellers are pissed off with it, Brandon has a course or whatever and software, but does 30 million, right? John Durkis is an 8-figure seller and he's got a side agency. Sharon is a consultant, but do you understand what I'm saying? You've got a course, but your primary sellers first. So I'm making it sure is that going forward that, I have had service. There's some fucking amazing. Look at who's a good example I could use? Destiny Wishon, service provider, might not be a seller, pretty much up there with world class when it comes to PPC, right?
Definitely.
So why wouldn't you have on your stage? Do you understand where I'm coming from? So that's not to rag on service providers. I think what's happened is it becomes so common that people go, do you know what? Next level. That's part of why I brought in the trade show element. Because when you look at the sponsorship side, they can do the pads and pens and stuff like that, but they don't get the level of impact and communication than someone walking up to your stand. So having that, because at the end of the day, I've got to make sure that my exhibitors, stroke sponsors or whatever are happy. They get a return on investment, but it's not so expensive that they go to one of the bigger events and spend 20, 30K on a booth, and it makes them more desperate in terms of their communications and pressurizing sellers. That's what I don't want. So I think we found the balance at the end of the day. So this is your it's going to be your last stage appearance apparently, right? You might come out of retirement, but
you never say never, I guess. But it's funny, even before the stroke I'd kind of made this decision. I can't even think of the number of events, probably 6 or 7 since COVID, where I kind of started doing. And I've always enjoyed it. My criteria for these events is just cool places I want to visit with people that are running events I like, and kind of reconnect with friends. And it's been super fulfilling and a fun way to see a lot of the world. But you got to check yourself. If it's not a hell yes, you got to kind of wonder why. And so I've kind of just, that part of my life I think is just transpired, and I've enjoyed it. So I'm really excited to go with a bang at your show. There's no other event I'd rather speak my last event at than yours, Danny. And so then I'll kind of go back to focusing more on the brands businesses. And like I said, now the stroke has put things in. I've had to kind of pare back what I focus on as a result of the health stuff. But man, it's gonna be fun. Go out with a bang. Really remember my first ever event. It was at the old venue, which was the Lions Den, which was super fun. I can't wait to get back out there. I'm going to try to actually get back out a week earlier. Hopefully go to an Arsenal game, but it sounds like the trains might be messed up, but we'll see how that goes. But excited to be back in the UK, man.
Yeah, Saturday the 4th, you might. Look, the thing is, it depends on where you stand in London. If you're up by Highbury anyway, just jump in an Uber. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
It's not too difficult. But it's normally outside of London is generally the biggest problem.
Okay, got it.
Skeleton services. So when they say a strike, 9 times out of 10, you can always get where you need to get. Yeah, they're just limited services.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, look, hope you have a good recovery. We might squeeze out another Broadmatch show between now and then. Sharon will be back next week. I'll say it every week on the show for the last 3 months, but she'll be back next week.
No, that's exciting.
Look forward to seeing you in London.
Yeah, likewise, brother.
Cool. Guys, if you still want to grab a ticket, remaining tickets left, go to sellersessions.com/live 2024. Use the discount code 2450. Get your 50 quid off. I know you love a discount. And lots of love, and I'll see you again next week. Take care.